Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Johanna Chan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Beaches reopen as more COVID curbs end and restaurants can seat more people per table. Retail sales in Hong Kong fall by nearly 14% at the height of the fifth COVID wave. And major Hong Kong banks keep their interest rates unchanged, although the Monetary Authority raises its benchmark rate. Public beaches reopened today as more COVID restrictions were lifted. People could also remove their masks when exercising outdoors. Johanna reports.
There was relief for outdoor sports lovers today as more social distancing curbs were lifted ahead of schedule. Masks will no longer be needed when exercising outdoors. This runner, who was not aware of the relaxation, immediately took off his mask when he was informed that he didn't have to wear one. He said he felt emancipated as it was suffocating to run with a mask on. Although the 4-person social gathering limit is still in force, team sports such as football and basketball can have as many players as required under the rules of the game. Players don't have to wear masks as well. 15 public beaches, including the ones in Repulse Bay, Silvermine Bay, and Shekou, also reopened. This woman said it was a relief after being cooped up at home for 2 years. This woman felt the closure was unnecessary, saying beaches are usually spacious. She added that she used to frequent swimming pools but opted for beaches to avoid infection risks. Swimming pools and water playgrounds will reopen next Thursday as the Leisure and Cultural Services Department needs time to sterilize the water. Lifeguards Union spokesman Nick Wu, meanwhile, criticized the government and the department for not notifying them of the reopening plan earlier, saying they were not given enough time to prepare. Wu also said the department reduced the number of lifeguards allocated to different pools in a bid to reopen them as soon as possible. He urged swimmers to be careful of their safety at the 38 public pools. Johanna Ho, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's dine-in restrictions were further relaxed to 8 people per table today. Restaurant staff were kept busy as people flocked for a meal in bigger groups. Some said they welcomed this earlier than expected rule change, while larger families enjoyed not having a partition in between them anymore. The sector is looking forward to a business increase of up to 40% in the coming days. Further relaxations will come on May 19th, when wedding banquets of up to 120 people will be allowed, and restaurants can operate until midnight. COVID cases in Hong Kong have edged up slightly since social distancing measures and flight bans were eased recently. The development comes as the last group of mainland medics left the city. Here's Johanna Ho again.
Hong Kong's daily COVID infections have crept up for the 4th day in a row, with 321 cases recorded today. They included 17 imported cases, 12 were found from airport screenings, and 5 during hotel quarantine. There were also 26 cases from schools, 24 students, and 2 staff members. 6 of them haven't been to school this week. There were 5 COVID-related deaths, compared with 3 yesterday. Health officials have detected no rebound in the community so far. Chief Executive Carrie Lam, meanwhile, said farewell to the last batch of mainland medical staff who helped the city battle the 5th wave. A total of 391 medics from 25 mainland health organizations left today. Lam presented them with memorial flags and thanked them for looking after more than 1,200 COVID patients in the past 2 months. Hospital Authority Chief Manager Larry Lee said mainland medics will be asked to help again should a sixth wave arise. On a separate note, the community isolation facility in Asia World Expo closed yesterday, and the Social Welfare Department will stop running 4 holding centers from the middle of the month. The Choi Wing Road, Shekip May Park, Harbor Road, and Chunwon West sports centers will be returned to the Leisure and Cultural Services Department. Johanna Ho, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's retail sales have fallen for a second month in a row. Sales plunged 13.8% in March, when the fifth COVID wave was reaching its peak. As COVID cases in Hong Kong surged in March, retail sales took a hit, plummeting 13.8% year-on-year to $23.8 billion. Sales had been on an upward trend until February, when they reversed course and fell 14.6%. The grim numbers came 2 days after the authorities estimated that the city's gross domestic product in the first quarter declined by 4% from a year earlier, with private consumption plunging 5.4%. Sale of food, alcohol, and tobacco dropped 3.3% in March, with a sharp fall in purchases of fish and meat. But supermarket sales grew 2.6%. Fuel, on the other hand, dropped 15.7%. Garments and accessories took the largest hits again, with clothing down 41.5%. There were significant drops for jewelry, watches, and clocks, and for business in optical shops. A government spokesman linked the retreat to the fifth COVID wave and stringent measures that constrained people flow and dampened consumption sentiment. Retail Management Association Chairwoman Annie Yao Jie agreed, adding even when shops were open, there was a manpower shortage due to COVID. But she noted that retailers are hopeful because the consumption voucher scheme at $10,000 for each adult permanent resident is double last year's handout. Beijing has introduced more social distancing rules, but stopped short of launching a full-blown lockdown as in Shanghai. Residents in the capital were supposed to return to work today following a 5-day Labor Day holiday. But the city's usual bustle was missing as authorities ordered people to work from home, canceled classes, and shut subway stations. Beijing reported another 50 locally transmitted COVID cases from yesterday. Meanwhile, Shanghai's daily caseload declined again, coming in at almost 4,400. Overseas, Ukrainian troops in the besieged city of Mariupol say they are hanging by a thread after Russian forces stormed their last holdout. But Moscow denies that its troops entered the Azovstal steel plant. Winna Wang reports.
Footage of Mariupol up in smoke was broadcast on Russian TV. Viewers also saw Kremlin troops in action in the Donetsk region. This came as Ukrainian forces in Mariupol claimed that their enemies had stormed the Azovstal steel plant, their last holdout in the beleaguered port city. In a pre-recorded message, Ukrainian commander Denis Prokopenko said heavy blood battles have dragged on into their second day. But Moscow denies its troops entered the plant. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said President Vladimir Putin's orders for the assault to be cancelled still holds. He did admit, however, that there were cases of escalation, which were blamed on militants taking up firing positions. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed in a video address that another 344 civilians had been evacuated from Mariupol, and the authorities are working on an agreement to clear those who remain, including women and children. Military assaults continued in other parts of Ukraine. Huge orange flames and dark smoke reached for the skies in the industrial city of Makivka. 4 5,000-ton oil tanks caught on fire at a depot after being shelled. At least one person was reported killed. In the eastern city of Kramatorsk, apartment buildings, schools, and other civilian structures were gutted, according to footage released by the regional government. Winna Wang, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's major banks are maintaining their interest rates, although the city's monetary authority raised its rate by half a percentage point, the highest rise in over 2 decades. The announcement came shortly after the U.S. Federal Reserve increased its rate in a bid to tackle runaway inflation. Chloe Feng reports.
Hong Kong's de facto central bank reacted to a U.S. interest rate increase by raising its own base rate by 50 basis points to 1.25%, marking the biggest increase in 22 years. The increased cost of borrowing could lead to higher mortgage and loan payments for households and businesses. Although the city's major banks have left their best lending and saving rates unchanged for now. Hong Kong Monetary Authority Chief Executive Eddie Yue, however, urged caution.
Apart from interest rates, there are a lot more other factors that will affect the property market. Things like the economic situation, the labor market, the external environment, and most importantly, the supply and demand for housing flats.
Yue voiced optimism about the city's economic recovery.
The rate hike in the U.S. will not affect Hong Kong's financial and monetary stability. The Hong Kong dollar market has continued to operate in a smooth and orderly manner.
The Monetary Authority was following in the footsteps of the U.S. Federal Reserve, which had announced just hours earlier a 50 basis point increase in its benchmark rate. The largest increase in 22 years takes the Fed's rate to between 0.75% and 1% as it tries to tame the highest U.S. inflation in 4 decades.
The labor market is extremely tight and inflation is much too high, and we understand the hardship it is causing, and we're moving expeditiously to bring it back down.
The Fed raised interest rates by 25 basis points in March. Powell calmed markets with an assurance that the Fed will not consider a 75 basis point increase for now. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 76 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent down $2, Meituan up 20 cents, Tracker Fund down 10 cents, and JD.com up $2. CNOOC up 8 cents, Kuaishou up $1.20, and Wuxi Bio down $3.10. To the Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is trading at 8.29, British pound at 9.74, and Australian dollar at 5.65. Over in the UK market, the FTSE 100 is up 118 points. Activity in the mainland services industry has fallen to its lowest level in 2 years, according to a private survey. This raised concerns over a sector that accounts for 60% of the economy and half the jobs in the urban areas. The Caixin Services Purchasing Managers Index for April fell almost 6 points to 36.2. The sharp drop was blamed on COVID outbreaks, which reduced spending, business investment, and jobs. On to the weather now. We'll have some sunny periods tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 24 to 29 degrees. Expect the weekend to be cloudy with 1 or 2 showers. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Johanna Chan. Good evening.